Hey there! So in this video, we're gonna keep working with the aggregation pipeline. And I really love this video because in this one, we're gonna solve a real business problem. So let's imagine that we are really developing this application for the Nature's company. And so let's say that they ask us to implement a function to calculate the busiest month of a given year. So basically, by calculating how many tours start in each of the month of the given year. And the company really needs this function to prepare accordingly for these tours, like to hire tour guides or to buy the equipment and all stuff like that. And so this is a real business problem that we now can solve using aggregation pipelines. Okay, and so this is going to be a real challenge, and I hope it's going to be really fun to solve this kind of real business need. At least if Nader's was a real business, I guess. So let's start by, again, creating the function. So exports dot, and I'm going to call it get monthly plan. All right. And again, it's going to be an async function. And then request response or try catch block. And I could actually just have gone and copied it from up here, but never mind. All right, and now let's actually also implement the route right here. And I'm just gonna duplicate this line. So monthly plan, and then here, this one is called get monthly plan. And actually, we want to be able to pass a year in the URL. And so let's use a URL parameter for that. All right. So coming back here, let's start by defining the year. So the year is coming from rec.params.year. Remember that. And then again, that trick to transform it into a number. Okay. Then I'm going to create the plan variable, which is going to await tour.aggregate. So just like before. And for now, I'm going to leave it empty here. And I will copy this piece of code to then send the result. Now, this one is called plan. And all right. So now we're ready to start our aggregation pipeline just like we did in the last video. Now to start, let's actually take a look at the complete results just so we can get a better idea of what we actually need to build here. So let's do get all tours and get completely rid of this query string. And so here we have our 9 tours, and each of the tours, remember, has an array of these start dates. So one tour will start on April 25th, 2021. Then the next one starts on July 20th and then October 5th. All right. Then the next one has these start dates, and all of them, I believe, have 3 starting dates. Okay. And so these dates is what we actually need as a starting point to create this function or to create this aggregation pipeline. Because remember, we want to count how many tours there are for each of the month in a given year. And so let's say that we're analyzing 2021. Okay, so we have 1 tour in April, 1 in July, 1 in October. Then let's take a look at the next tour. Here we have 1 in June, 1 in July, and 1 in August. And so in July, we already have 2. So this one and this one. Next one, we have 1 in March, 1 in May, and 1 in June. And so in June, we also already have 2. Okay, and so we can keep going and doing it manually, but of course, we want to do it with our aggregation. So if we want to add all of this together, the easiest way would basically be to have 1 tour for each of these dates here, right? And we can actually do that using the aggregation pipeline. There is a stage for doing exactly that, and that is called Unwind. So let's use it now, and I will then show you the result of it and why we really need it. Okay, so again, we define an object and then the name of the stage. And in this case, it is unwind. Okay, and what unwind is going to do is to basically deconstruct an array field from the input documents and then output one document for each element of the array. And so that's what I was saying before, which is that basically we want to have one tour for each of these dates in the array. Okay, and this stage can be really useful for so many cases. So the field with the array that we want to unwind is start dates. All right, and so for now, that's actually all. So I just want to show you the result of that right now. And I think we actually already have everything in place for this to work. So just keep in mind that the route is called monthly plan and then with a year, which for now is not going to have any result, but yeah, we have to define it anyway. So monthly plan and a year of 2021. So let's send this now. And indeed, we now have the start dates no longer as an array, but only this first element of the array that we had before. So let's put them side by side. And so you see, we had, or actually let's do it with the first one. So we had the forest hiker for April 25th, July 20, and October 5th. And so now we have the forest hiker on this date here. Then we have the forest hiker on July 20, and now we will have the forest hiker for October 5th. So exactly the result that we wanted, because now we have one document for each of the dates. Okay, so instead of having 9, we now have 27, which is 9 times 3. All right, so that's the first stage. Now let's actually go ahead and select the document for the year that was passed in. Okay, and remember which stage we use for that. That's right, we use match. So remember, match is basically to select documents. So just to do a query. And so the year is in the start date. And so start dates is the one that we're going to search for. So start dates. And now what do we want? Well, we want the date basically to be greater than January 1st of the current year. So let's say 2021. And we want it to be less than January 1st of 2022. Right? So basically, we want it to be between 2020 and 2022. All right? And so let's put that in code now. So start dates, and then we need another object for the operators. So greater or equal than, and in MongoDB, this works perfectly fine with dates. So Mongo is actually perfect for working with dates, like doing date comparisons. So it works really great. So now we actually need to define a new date here so that that one can then be compared with the date that's in each of the documents. So the format of the date is year, month, and day. And so let's do a template string here and use our year variable. So January 1st. So we want our date to be greater or equal than January 1st, 2021. And let's actually write that here just to keep it in mind. And we want it to be less than, or we can say less than equal. Let's go ahead and copy this one. And then December 31st. Okay, so basically we want it to be between the first day of the year and the last day of the current year. Okay, so let's keep testing it. So I will test it now after each of the stages. So sending it. And so now we should have only tours here that are in 2021. So let's confirm that 2021, here as well, here as well, here as well. So you see, we really have no other year, right? It's always 2021. Okay, so I think we've seen enough. And so let's go back. Next up is where the magic happens. And so that is usually in the group stage. So let's add the group here. So just like before. So group, and remember we need to specify the ID field, basically to say what we want to use to group our documents. Now we want to group them by the month, right? But currently we simply have the entire date with the year, the month, the day, and even the hour. So I guess it's 10 in the morning or something. But again, we only want the month. And so let me show you just another like magical MongoDB operator. So where is that? So here in this back in this reference here, we actually have a couple of aggregation pipeline operators. And it's in here where we have this really handy date operator. So let's take a look at these. And the one that we're going to use is month. So it returns the month for a date as a number. Okay, and so this will basically extract the month out of our date. And there are lots of other operators like this. For example, we could even calculate the week or just a year. Okay, but the week could also be very handy. But let's keep it with the month. All right. So again, you can take a look at these special aggregation operators because there are a ton of them, as you can see here. Okay. So actually these operators that we're using here in the aggregation pipeline are, exactly that. They are aggregation pipeline operators. We have stages and then operators that we can use. Okay, and in this case, again, we use the month. And then again, the name of the field where we want to basically extract the date from. All right, give it a save and then that error disappears. Okay, so we are grouping it now by the month. And now the real information that we want for each of the month is how many tours start in that month, right? And for that, all we're going to do is to basically count the amount of tours that have a certain month, right? So num of tour starts. And so this one is actually very similar to what we did before. So we use add, and then for each of the documents, we add 1. So just like we did before. But actually it is sum and not add. Okay, so just like here when we counted the tours for each of the difficulties, we simply added the number 1 for each of the documents. And so here we do the same. All right, so let's again test this. And we're getting really close already to our end result. And indeed, here we go. So we have February with 1 tour, December with 1 tour, we have November, or actually September with 2 tours, and then we have 2 tours, and all of these on here, actually we have 3 tours in July. And so this is getting pretty close to our result. So that's absolutely fantastic. So this part here, which was, I think, the most difficult one, is already working. All right. Now, we actually want some more information, which is not only how many tours, but also which tours. So let's do that. And so if we want information about which tours, that should actually be an array, right? Because how else would we specify like 2 or 3 different tours in one field, right? And so basically we want to create an array. And we do that by using push. And then what we're going to push into that array as each document goes through this pipeline is simply the name of the document. Or actually the name field. Okay, so not the name of the document, but the name field. So in this case, the name of the tour. Okay, so let's test it. And bam, here we go. So we have also now the name of the tours in there. So fantastic. Let's see. Yeah, here we have all the 3. Next up, let's actually change the name of this field here. Okay, now not really change, but we're simply going to add another field which will have the same value here. So that then later on we can basically delete this ID. Okay, and so for that we're going to use the next stage, which is called add field. So add field, and this one is pretty straightforward. It simply does what it says. So add field is used to add fields, and actually it is called add fields. And so now the name that we want to add, or the field, is called month, and it has the value of the field with the name ID. Alright, so pretty straightforward, simply the name of the field and then the value, which as usual we need to use the dollar sign. Alright, just to test it again, indeed now we have the month. Then next up, let's actually get rid of this, and so we use project. So I'm really trying to put as many stages in here as I can to show you really everything I can. So how does project work? Well, we simply give each of the field names a 0 or a 1. So let me show that to you. So we can say ID and set it to 0. And that will then make it so that the ID no longer shows up. If I put a 1 here, well, then it would actually show up. Okay? So this one I'm not going to test. Let me just add the next one, which is the sort one, which I believe I used it before. But still, I want to sort it here by the number of tours. Okay, so right now it's not 100% useful. We are still missing, because we should actually sort it really by the number of tour starts. So the name of the field is number of tour starts. And remember we had 1 before, which was for ascending, and -1 is for descending. And of course, that's what we want. So starting with the highest number. So it should be 3 in our case. And yep, it is. So July is the busiest month with 3 tour starts, the forest hiker, the sea explorer, and the sports lover. Okay, so this is kind of done. Let me just show you one last stage here, which is not really helpful here, but I wanted to show it to you anyway. So we have the limit, and so this one is exactly the same as limit in the query. So basically it is going to allow us to only have 6 documents here. Okay, so basically 6 outputs. Okay, so let's test that. And so now indeed we should only have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Again, not really useful, because that's going to cut off the 6 least busiest month, which we don't want. So let's simply set it to 12 here, just so we can leave it here as a reference for you. All right. So one more time, but it should be working now, and the real business problem is now solved. And I know this is quite a lot of moving pieces that we have here, a lot of different stages. And so I know that it's a lot for you to take in at this moment. But don't worry, you don't have to know all of this stuff all at the same time. With practice, you will keep improving, and you will know when to use which of the tools that you have at your disposal. Just keep in mind that you can always read the documentation, which is kind of complete and a really great learning material besides this course. Okay, and that applies to all of the technologies that we're learning here. So I really encourage you to always also study the documentation. And I know that it can be really frightening to look at it. And without this course, it would be a lot more difficult to learn from the documentation. But with this really good starting point that you get in these videos, it's then a lot easier for you to keep learning more and more using that documentation. Okay, so I wouldn't expect you to solve this challenge on your own, of course, which is why we basically did it together here, right? But I hope you had as much fun as I did, because again, I really love to solve this kind of problems. It's really fun, I think. But anyway, enough talking now. In the rest of the section, we will now talk about a couple of other features that we have available to us in Mongoose. So that should be pretty fun as well.